There we go. Recording in progress. That's nice. First of all, a good vach, everyone. Marvelous Chodesh Elul. Tremendous. Baruch Hashem. Rosh Hashanah was at Hashem soon. Exciting. Shem Yazol. We will start as we always do in Motzei Shabbos. Hashem is Baruch. We'll start with the story, maybe more than one, of Shiva Sayamin, Rabbeinu Baal Shem Tov, Zecher Tzaddik Kodesh Livracha. And then Bezat Hashem we will get into Sichos Haran. So the first story is about a person who was called Reb Shmerel, who had no children. I don't know if he had no children, didn't have a male boy, I'm not sure. And his derech is that he would host the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem would come, would stay by him in his house. He didn't have a special, extra house, whatever it is. So one time he wanted to ask the Baal Shem Tov to daven for him, so he should have a ben zocha. But he was embarrassed. He was embarrassed to say anything. And every time that he got his courage up to ask him, he couldn't talk. He was so embarrassed. So the next day, before the Baal Shem HaKadosh got up to travel away, the Baal Shem Tov turned to him. And again, Reb Shmuel was much just too embarrassed to ask him. So suddenly the Baal Shem HaKadosh tells him, well, go call your wife. And he went to call his wife, and they were standing before the Baal Shem Tov, and he told him, this year, in Mitzvah Shem, you will have a baby boy. And so it happens that particular year in Baruch Hashem, they had a son, his name was Rabbi David, that ended up being the Av Beis Din in Chichlik. I don't know, that's one of the towns. And now, apparently he had other children. I think he had girls and other girls. That's the way it seems from the minhag of Shmuel, that even, when his wife gave birth to a daughter, he would go to Baal Shem Tov, take from him an amulet, a charm, to guard them for Shmir, and he would give him what they call two golden coins. Golden means gold. In other words, because he was a big seicher, and he had these golden coins. He had plenty. Now, when his son got born, he went to Baal Shem Tov to get a kameya, the way to get this charm, this amulet, the way he always did. So Baal Shem Tov told him, you should know that from now on you will not have money anymore. because Mishamayim, they gave you a choice, either money or a male child. And I have chosen for you that you should have this male boy. And so it happened. Rav Shmuel lost his money, and afterwards he became a Magid Misharim Kilos of Yerochva. I don't know where that is. In other words, he wasn't a great Yid all his own, and he became a Magid instead of being a Soicher. Oh Hashem, he was Dafrus Kodesh. That is the first story about the Baal Shem Tov. The second story is about the Akasha, a question that was posed by a thief to Baal Shem Tov. One soicher that came to the town that was called Sdeh Lovan, White Field. So it appears in quite a few of the stories of the Hasidim from that era. And he came with a big wagon that was filled with merchandise that he brought from Breslau. Breslau was the place where, between Poland and Germany or Ukraine, I'm not exactly sure how. And it's mentioned many times. Rabbeinu mentions it in Sipurey. This is where the borderline between the Kedusha of the Hasidus and the Tumah of the Enlightenment, met in the town of Breslau. And it's not Breslov, it's Breslau. It's a different, it's called Bratislava, I think this is what they call that. And it was a major commercial town. This used to have fairs and so forth and so on. And he came from there with a lot of schara, and he came at a time at night. He didn't want to take all the schara off in such a so all he did was he just took the horses off, just untied the horses and put them away, and just left the wagon with all the schara, because it says, who's gonna come and steal off a whole wagon full of schara, But he wasn't that lucky that night, because in the middle of the night, a thief came and tied different horses to that wagon and ran away with all the schara, all the merchandise. In the morning, when the Seicher saw that all his merchandise was stolen, he sent a letter to the Baal Shem Tov with the Shaliach and asked him, what to do. The Shaliach, when he came to Baal Shem Tov, he saw him that he was about to leave to Kehillah of Drazna, because he was the Mechavedim in the mitzvah smila, to be a sandak or whatever it is. And the Baal Shem Tov took the letter and went on there. When the Baal Shem Tov got close to the town, he saw the thief with the wagon. He's also coming to town. So he told his Talmud, Reb Tzvi Sofer, that this letter that was sent to me is for this wagon that was stolen with the schara. When we get to the town, we're going to go to the inn where this thief is staying, and you will tell him to give you the wagon with the schara, because he stole it from the Seicher. So it was. The Baal Shem Tov and the Tzvi came to the town. Immediately, the Tzvi came to the inn of the Ganov, And he saw him davening like an Elachid, standing there davening. So that's we didn't have, the audacity to tell him about this. So he came back to Baal Shem Tov, and he says he couldn't tell the thief anything. Was embarrassed. He saw him like, davening like a, Elachid. So the Baal Shem Tov said, go there again, because very soon the thief will continue on his way and the wagon in Tasker will be lost. So Tzvi went again, he saw the thief eating breakfast. So he asked the Balabas, did he drink a lot of beer or whatever it is, like the thieves? He says, no, he just drank a little bit like every person. Immediately, so he came back to Baal Shem Tov. He says, I don't know what it is. The Baal Shem Tov told Reb Tzvi, go back and tell this Ganav that you know all the simanim, all the signs that testify for the Gneva, that he hid in the forest for 3 days until all those who were looking for him. And then he slept in another town before he came here to the town of Drazny. Again, Reb Tzvi came, and then he told the gun of all this gun of this thief, he told him all these simonim. And the Ganav admitted, yes, he stole it and he gave it back. The Baal Shem Tov went to the Bris Milah where he was invited. And the Ganav said, okay, I'm the same pauper that I used to be. So, I'm the pauper just like everybody else. I'll go eat in Sudas Mitzvah of the Bris. In the middle of the Suda, the Ganav came next to the Baal Shem Tov. He says, I have a big question on Your Excellency. Since you know and you see how thieves steal and where they sleep, obviously you are able to see much loftier things. So why are you looking at such low things? Why? And the Baal Shem Tov said Torah about the words, the question of this Ganav, and he did not finish the mice. He didn't finish the story. There's another story from Baal Shem Tov on something similar, but he was asked a similar question. And the Baal Shem Tov answered according to the other story that he sees those things when he goes to the bathroom. This is when he sees in that realm where people that have this kind of deeds, this is when he sees them. Okay, now we have a story from the Tzvi Hersh Aliker, who was a great, great tzaddik. He knew Rabbeinu. Rabbeinu was very young, and when he met Rabbeinu, Rabbeinu must have been, I don't know, 17 or something like this. And he sat by a Suda by him. And Rabbeinu was there, and he participated in the Suda, and he drank some wine. And he got very, very excited. And he took Reb Tzvi Hersh Aliker out from Suda, into the forest, and proceeded to tell him all the tzaddikim of generation, each one, which madrega he was holding. So Reb Tzvi Aliker said about Rabbeinu at that time 2 things. First of all, he said that which is said about Shlomo HaMelech, Vayechka Mikol Odom, that he was the wisest of all men, he says it's a too small a praise for Rabbi Nachman. It's not, and he said, it seems to me that we should all be very ashamed before him. And he was considered to be extremely, a very big tzaddik, and Nosson one told Beinu that he thinks that the Tzvi got to his big madrega because he was such a big Yerushalayim. Beinu said, no, that's not the reason. He got his madrega because he was so wise. These are two sichos have to go with Tzvi about whom we're telling the story. Among the Hasidim and Anshe Maaseh that that used to travel to Tzvi Shalikin was a young man who was chosen by a very wealthy father-in-law, like a town that was pretty far from Alik. After Rosh Hashanah, the Chassidim came to say, to get shus, to go back home from the Rebbe to get a bracha, and he came together. This young man came. So his Rebbe told him, Kadosh Baruch Hu Be'ezrat Hashem will prepare for you a place that you should be there, and he will give you a parnasa there. Now this young man, became very dismayed. I mean, he knew that everything that his holy Rebbe said were not in vain. And he himself was a son-in-law of a very wealthy person. And he himself was well-to-do. He was thinking this way, that way, and his spirit became even lower. Now he was really perturbed by that. Well, he went together with all the Chassidim, and they stopped at an inn along the way. They rested a little bit, and they drank a little mashka to make this young man, so this young man will also become a shtickle b'simcha, will get, and he shouldn't be worried so much. While they were doing this, spoke divrei Torah, and this young man, this Yisrael, this Rev, he said divrei Torah, much more than everybody else. And they were fabulous diburim. Now the owner of the inn was sitting at the side together with his wife, and he said, "I like this young man, and more than all the members of his chabura, I think that he should be the melamed, the teacher, to our sons." So the owner of the inn went to this young man, and was a son-in-law of a very wealthy person. He said, "Listen, I saw you, and you are like the best of all your chabura. So please be here, be a melamed by me, by my children." So this young man, his heart sank because he remembered what his Rebbe told him, that Hashem Yisborach will prepare for him a place to stay. And he understood that, he connected one thing to another. So at the beginning, he refused, but the innkeeper, the owner, begged him, and he promised him that he will pay him and he will feed him and everything, whatever he needs. So then he said, it makes sense, perhaps, that the bracha of my Rebbe was about this particular place. This is where I'm supposed to be. So what I'll do is I'll stay here, and Hashem Yisbach will have Rachmanis on me, and He will show me, what's the kavanah, what's the aim of everything, what is the goal of everything here. So he stayed, and he became a tutor to the children of the innkeeper, just for the food that he would eat. And he tested, he asked them a question. He tested the children if they know, learning Gemara, nothing doing. So he decided, okay, you'll sit with them and you will teach them, Chumash Rashi, a little bit of Shulchan Aruch, and some Musas Farim, Sipurey. So they will have you Shemaim, simple people, Baruch Hashem, Kinan Hara, everything is okay. You will learn them some, and every single day he'll learn with them, in the Sefer Reishis, the Holy Sefer Reishis Chochma. Reishis Chochma is a Sefer that one of the greatest Sefer Musar, and in the Sefer Reishis Chochma, there is one of the most terrifying description of Gehenna. And once the Rebbe Levi Yitzchak of Raditchev said, if only the description of Gehenna was in the street, the description of Gan Eden would have been Reishis Chochma, says nobody would do any Averis. But unfortunately, everything looks like Gan Eden in the street, and what Gehenna is like is buried in Reishis Chochma. So people don't know about that. And the Baal saw that he was doing whatever he was doing with great faith, and he loved the Melamed, and he liked him a lot, and he stood behind the door and he would listen to everything that was going on, that he was learning. And the day came, he was learning Reishis Chochma, the Shara Kedusha, how a person needs to keep himself from illicit relationships and immorality, and how great is the sin of somebody who has stumbled on such a relationship. And these words came into the heart of the Baal Bais, and he became extremely, extremely afraid. And he went into the room. He told his sons, please leave the room. And he stayed with him together. He says, my beloved Tzaddik, I am the Rasha that you have just learned and called and read with your mouth. I am the one who have actually transgressed all these illicit relationships. And my sins are beyond imagining. I don't know what to do. And he was crying, and he says, okay, let's go to the house of my holy Rebbe, Rebbe Tzvi Hirsch Alikan, and he will be able to B'ezrat Hashem, to heal you, to fix you. Now that was, one of those, Tavis nights. It was it was freezing cold and snow. Now, the Baal Bais said he cannot wait. He wants to leave in the middle of the night. He has to leave right away. But the young man said, this is not possible. This is not shayach. I'm not going to risk myself to travel in the middle of the night in such freezing cold to go at night. So this Baal Bais said in his heart, what will this Rebbe help me. I mean, my sin is beyond anything you can imagine. I'm going to go into the forest, and there I will cry and bemoan about my days and my years. And you'll say, by the light of the moon, I'll say Shir Tishbochas to, say Tehillim, until Bezat Hashem Yishboch will have Rahmanas on me and forgive me. And he went to the forest, and he went amongst the trees, and he started saying Tehillim. And he was crying, and he was moaning, and slowly became more and more chilled. But it was there, he was makabel on himself, that he is going to be Moshe Nefesh. He's not going to give it up. He's going to stay there. He's going to say Tehillim no matter what, because of his immense averus. Well, it became colder and colder, and he's standing there by the trees until he froze, and he died. He actually died. He froze to death. Crying and calling out, and because of this, the great chill. And he fell to the ground, and nobody knew. Nobody had any idea what happened. In the morning, the two shtutzim, Goyish children, went to go to the forest to take some wood from this big pile that was in the water. And huge logs from the top of the pail fell down on these children and killed both of them. And it was not far from where the innkeeper, the dead innkeeper, was, lying dead, died crying. Well, as the sun rose, all the people of the household, woke up. They couldn't find the balabais. The Malamed, the Chassid looked for him, because he's promised him he's going to take him to Reb Tzvi Alikin. And he walked in the forest, and he saw him dead, and the two Goyish children also standing there, squashed to death basically by these falling logs. They all died, and he became very, very afraid. He was afraid maybe they will blame him for killing the children. Or maybe he killed the balabais. He didn't know, whatever it is. B'kitzer, he went back to his holy Rebbe, the Tzvi Alikin, and he told him everything that happened, beginning to end. And the Baal Achsania, the innkeeper, and the entire story of what happened with him. And when he heard them learn Rishis Chochmah, and how he went in the middle of the night to the forest and he died. He told him about the two Goyish children that died. And he said how much he was afraid that they would accuse him for being the murderer. That's why he ran away. So Reb Tzvi told him, my son, I know you, and I know you for a while. I know your tmimus and your avodas Hashem, and without any machshavas. This is the reason why I sent you to that place, because I knew that your words are coming straight out of your heart. And they will get into the heart of this person that was trapped in immeasurable, immense averus, to break his heart and to bring him to a Kadosh Baruch Hu b'tshuva shleima. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem is Baruch, that you zeichen, that your words actually made an imprint in the heart of a sinner like him, and you actually retrieved him from a place that is lower than hell. And you should know that this tshuva was actually me'umka deliver, from the depth of his heart. Like the Gemara says about one of the people that put his head between his knees till he died. He says, you should know that even though his sins were some of the sins that have no kapara, because he had relationship with a non-Jewish woman, and he already had mamzerim with her. He had two children, two mamzerim with her. And once his neshama came out crying and wailing, they still wouldn't let him go after the Shemaim, the oil and neshamas, because of this mamzerim that he left in the world. It became a big rash because he was such a huge Baal Tshuva. That these two mamzerim will be killed, and when they were killed, immediately he was able to go up to ascend to where he needed to go. So now, my beloved student, don't worry about it. You go back home. Your father-in-law is a very, very wealthy person, together with all the people of your household. They're all rich, and they're all happy, and they're all waiting to see you. And they're all well, and everything is okay by them. And the Shem Yisborach B'ezrat Hashem will help us to fix all the blemishes that we have damaged in the supernal roots. And B'ezrat Hashem will send us Mashiach Tzidkenu B'korav B'yameinu Amen. And now, Be'ezrat Hashem, we will get to Sichos Haran. Today's Sicha is short, but to the point. Sicha 139 is Kuf Lametes. Siper li echad me'anoshav, I was told by one of Rabbeinu's people that once he told Rabbeinu's Chol that they speak to him about Tzah Shidduch. And the person said before Rabbeinu HaKadosh that it's not a place for him. There's no place for him. So Rabbeinu answered him, when a person has a heart of a Ish Israeli, of a Jewish heart, it's not shaykh by him which place yes, which place no. Because the heart is kula elokus, the heart is filled with godliness. This particular sikha is extremely pertinent, especially now. Before Rosh Hashanah, it was somebody once told Rabbeinu that he would rather stay home and daven Rosh Hashanah at home, because at home things are easier, because his house is there, the food is there, and it's like he has more Yishuv Hadas, not to go. So Rabbeinu said, very famous adage, he says, Yo essen nicht essen, yo davenin nicht davenin, abi zabamir of Rosh Hashanah. He says to eat and not to eat, to daven or not to daven, which means you eat, but you eat. Anybody who's been to Ummah knows that it's not the kind of food that you get at home. He says to daven or not to daven. Davening is how you're on the road. You're not many things. You have your head there with you. That's called davening and not davening. But be by me of Rosh Hashanah. When a person wants to be by Rabbeinu of Rosh Hashanah, he is by Rabbeinu of Rosh Hashanah. But if a person doesn't really want to be, I would like to be, I'd like to be, But if it so happens that, that I won't be, then it's okay, what can you do? It's where I am is also all right. And that now. If Rabbeinu said, I don't understand anybody who listens to me, I said, be by me of Rosh Hashanah. He says, how come the people don't come? Those that listen to me, that they don't come. How can that be? He says, what shall I tell them? There's nothing greater than that. They say about Reb Shmuel Shapiro Zahatzal B'Bracha, before he passed away, he was sick. He couldn't leave his house. And I don't know, he was obviously in pain or whatever. So he told one of the people of his house, come, take me to the mikveh. And he got up and he took 2 steps and he couldn't walk anymore. He couldn't get any further. This was him going to the mikveh. You can't go to the mikveh. What do you want? No, the point is that maybe I can. Maybe I can. And he went 2 steps, that's it, he couldn't go. Okay. That means he went to the mikveh. The problem is a person should not be a fool, obviously. But the heart should take you all the way to Uman. If a person is like, happens, doesn't happen. It's like we have no idea of the value of being in Uman and Rosh Hashanah. I've had, my wife is now in Israel. She's coming back this week in Shem. And I was a guest by a family, a couple families that the Litvikis and so they asked me, are you going to Mitzvah Shem? I said, Mitzvah Shem. Zat Hashem, hopefully, Zat Hashem. So they asked me, what is not, it's dangerous. What are you talking about, dangerous? Are you going to the Kaisel? People going through the old city. There are more people attacked going to the old city to the Kaisel, so you're not going to go to the Kaisel? People traveling to Gush Etzion, whatever it is, they get shot at, people get killed. So you're not going to go to Gush Etzion? It was a big miracle with this Arab that was caught with guns and explosives. Well, when you wanted to make this huge pigua in Tel Aviv, Shem Yetzilein and Baruch Hashem was a miracle that we were saved by that. So what do you say? You're not going to go to Tel Aviv? I don't think you should go to Tel Aviv. He says, anyhow, forget about that. Unless you absolutely have to. But so what's the if the war was actually there, the crowds of the war, then you can't go. But that's not what the war is. Something could be, would be, what they're saying doesn't matter. what they are saying does not matter. This is a reasonable thing to do, and you should want and wish with all your heart, unless you can't. If you can't, then B'ezrat Hashem, your heart is full with the lakus, and you, B'ezrat Hashem, are in Uman. But if you're saying, listen, no, it's okay. I'll be yaitzer with, I don't know, maybe I'll go to Miron, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do what's that. No, try, if it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. It's just this kind of thing. There is no way that we can picture, especially now, when there's the last 30 years, we did not have the luxury of having obstacles on the way to go to Uman. Now we do. Now is the time. Now is the time. Now is the time. Whatever it is that you can do, whatever it is that you can, again, whatever what you can do. Every person has to know himself. But the heart should burn to like Shmuel Shapiro going to the mikveh. Take me to the mikveh right now. I can't go. And we can't get this kind of heart unless we're Be'er Kodesh Baruch Hu to give us that heart. Shem is B'ezrat Hashem will bless us all with Ksira v'Chasima Teva, and Gid Giben Shtior for each and every one of us. Will all be written and signed to Chaim Tovim Shalom, and a lot of nachas, a lot of health, a lot of Hashem, Rachlas Adas, Torah, and Kedusha. And B'ezrat Hashem, B'li Neder, we'll see each other on Monday night when we are learning Sipurey Maisius.